everybody. From Salt Lake City, Utah, it's Thank God I'm Atheist, a podcast about religion, news, world events, life in America, in trying times. I'm Frank Feldman, and with me today is Rachel.
Here I am. I'm back.
Sitting in for Dan. And so thank you for being here, Rachel.
You're welcome.
Yeah, it's always so good to have you on the show.
Yeah.
Coming up on the second half of the show, we're going to be talking about some changes that the LDS Church, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, the Mormons, has made for with some of their educational materials about polygamy and how they teach it to children. I think we talked about it a few months ago when they sort of revised it. Well, they revised it again based on like some public backlash to the original stuff.
I love Mormon backlash. Fun.
Of all the backlash in the world,
yeah,
it's pretty good backlash. Well, first we have some news to talk about. Things that happened that warrant our attention, including Rachel.
What?
Have you heard about the Cross on the Moon Coalition?
No.
Oh my goodness. This
Spreading the Lord's message to aliens and such?
To the desolate surface of the moon.
Yeah.
Yeah. Faith has no bounds, they say on their website. This is an effort. They're raising money currently to, here's the animation we're watching of a lander arriving on the surface of the moon, and then immediately a cross sort of erects
robotically
itself. Lifts up from the lander, so that there is now a cross on the moon. I guess they're claiming it for Christianity. So this is an actual real project.
Money's going into this?
Yeah. They're very transparent. They have
this is the donors?
No, I think there are donors on here. This is how they're spending the money currently. They sort of show all of their expenses.
That's a lot of money.
So it's all in Bitcoin. So they started off with one Bitcoin. They purchased a Bitcoin last year for $44,000, and that's what they're sort of funding off of. They currently have about $96,000 in Bitcoin. And thanks to some money that came their way, but they're like trying to spread the word, and they're paying for their website, and they're being really transparent on their website right here. Rachel.
They are.
That's what we're seeing.
They are.
But they also like have, this is their mission. It says that the Cross on the Moon Coalition is an organization that is focused on uniting people through our Savior, Jesus Christ. We are on a mission to send a cross to the lunar surface to consecrate the heavens and remind humanity that God is the center of the universe by putting a cross
on the moon,
which is not the center.
It's nowhere
of the
near,
universe, but
yeah.
They're getting their thing done. Yeah. So I thought it was worth spreading the word.
Yeah. And like as Christians, there's no better thing they could be doing with their money.
Yeah.
That would echo Christ's message.
Yeah.
Like putting something on the moon.
Yeah.
$97,000 couldn't possibly be used any better way.
I'm sure it's going to cost more than that. That's just where they're at right now.
That's what they have. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is very Christian of them.
Oh yeah. Here's
Christianity in space.
Yeah,
They've got a whole
timeline
presentation.
Of Christianity in space.
God creates space. Step one.
The first point on their timeline is 26.7 billion BC.
So they're acknowledging that at least.
Birth of the universe. Yeah. And it says God creates space, time, and energy as the stars and heavenly bodies are set into motion. So they're acknowledging some science.
Yeah, they are.
Which is interesting. And then the next, so it goes from 26.7 billion BC to 0 AD.
They skipped a lot of time.
There's a lot of, not much happened.
No.
Between the birth of the universe and the birth of Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
And then there's the heliocentric revelation. Boy, that's bold of them to call the realization that the sun is at the center of the solar system.
Is it revelation?
They call it a revelation. You know, it's not like the people who were coming out and saying that, like Copernicus, didn't face some troubles.
Yeah.
And then the next step is the 1891. There's the establishment of the Vatican Observatory.
Oh,
that's
very
cool.
notable moment in history.
And then for some reason, the 1931 Christ the Redeemer statue in Brazil. But look at this picture; it's great because it's taken from a perspective where it looks like Christ the Redeemer is holding up the moon.
Yeah,
it's like he's
holding it in his hands.
Atlas, you know.
Yeah.
But he's holding up the moon.
So that's part of history of God in space or Christ in space is the
Christ and Redeemer.
A statue in Brazil.
In Brazil, yeah. And then of course they point out that in 1968 on Apollo 8, the crew read from the book of Genesis, I guess. Okay, cool. And then I guess Buzz Aldrin took the Eucharist on
I don't like that.
on the lunar surface before Neil Armstrong got out of the lander. Anyway, it's a funny thing. Their goal is by 2027 to have the first mission to the moon for the getting across up there.
2027?
Yeah.
They better get going.
I know. There's not a lot of other information, but it seems actually like it's very Catholic, these people. Obviously they're focusing on a lot of like Catholic things. And then there's like this patron saint.
Oh.
They've claimed Saint Dominic as their patron saint.
Oh. Patron saint of astronomers and natural scientists.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, okay. All right. Saint Dominic.
I like him.
He's gonna. I mean, assuming he was. I don't know. Why is he? Anyway.
You don't have a saint of astronomers and natural scientists. Those two things don't go together.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway.
Whatever.
The Catholics have done it. And that's coming up, Rachel. We're going to have to pay attention to this as this develops.
I wonder what else. I wonder what other religious symbols are going to be next for the moon.
Well, there's going to be like a space race of trying to get. They're going to be like a crescent, like the Islamic.
Right.
You know, the crescent. Are they going to put a crescent moon on the moon? Right.
I love it. Yes.
I mean, send a Star of David.
Yes,
put it on
the moon.
Yeah,
appropriate.
Yeah,
the cross is actually the least on theme symbol to put on the moon.
Yeah. At least the others are celestial. Bodies.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm going to talk about Catholics a little more.
Oh, are you? Okay.
Yeah. Some in Italy. There was a self-styled mystic named Gisella Cardia.
Okay.
Who she created a foundation and collected donations, and she said there was this statue. She bought a statue and put it on.
Like what kind of statue?
It was a statue of Virgin Mary.
Oh, okay.
I'm trying to see where she bought. She bought it like before she set up this organization. So she buys this Virgin Mary statue, puts it on a hillside, and then takes people there, like tourists, like religious tourists, and says like, "This is the statue, and it's bleeding blood from its eyes."
One of those.
Yeah. So that
happens though.
It happens all the time. Where like they say like the statue was crying, or do you know what I mean? Like her face in a piece of toast. Like,
that kind of stuff.
Weird stuff happens all the time.
This is no
more weird than that.
Yeah. Why don't these statues ever just like poo or?
Right.
Like,
right.
they're so filled with like bodily fluids and whatnot.
Yeah, exactly. Only their eyes can have stuff come out.
Pooing from its ears. The Madonna was pooing from her ears.
No. Okay, so
that would
anyway,
be just as miraculous.
I suppose. Well, they find out that the blood on the statue, some people investigated it, and it's actually her blood. So she put her own blood and then claimed that like this miraculous thing was happening.
Oh.
So she's in a lot of trouble.
It wasn't the statue's blood?
Well, what's funny is her defense attorney says she handled the statue, she kissed the statue, so her DNA could be all over that statue. And do you actually know what Madonna's DNA was? So how can you prove it is not? Which I love that line of argument. Like prove that this isn't the Virgin Mary's DNA.
Oh my God. No.
Prove it. You can't.
Well, but we can prove that it is her client's.
It
DNA.
is definitely her client's. Yeah. So anyway.
So I don't know. In the absence of any other rational explanation, it seems probable to me that it is actually
a fraud.
A fraud.
Well, my issue with this is that, men do this all the time and can start religions based on this sort of practice. But the second rando lady does it, the Catholic Church says no. They actually tighten their rules on supernatural phenomena because of this incident last year. So no, we're not going to allow you to have revelations about this stuff anymore. And that's my issue with it, is that because it's a woman that they're saying no, we're going to crack down. Yeah, you can't do this anymore. But for millennia, it was always okay for this sort of thing to happen. And people would gladly give their money to these causes.
Right.
That's my issue.
The feminist reading of
exactly. Free Gisela Cardia.
Yes, she's just being a religious entrepreneur.
Yes. Why
in
not?
In the long tradition of defrauding.
How do you say buyer beware in Italian?
Oh, no idea.
I'm sure they have a saying something.
Yeah, I'm sure they do.
Like that.
They probably just say the Latin phrase, which I can't remember it.
This is what I rely on you for.
Latin phrase. Anyway. Well, all right. That's lovely. Blood coming out of a statue. I remember the first time I heard about this kind of stuff. And I was just like, I think I was a missionary.
Really?
I think I made it to being 19 years old. It was in
Italy. Yeah. This is all very Italian, right?
Yeah.
This stuff doesn't happen on the new continent.
Oh, South America and Central America.
Do that happens
those
there?
Those Catholics, they get into this kind of stuff too. Right. Yeah. But yeah, you're going to see it in Italy for sure. All right. Well, back to this continent. Some other religiously gullible people down in Texas, where there's a measles outbreak.
Of course.
Have you heard about this?
Yes.
It's so, as of, when is this article dated? The 25th, I want to say. 22nd. It's not even the 25th yet. It's the 22nd. The number is up to 48 cases. Mostly children and teens in a small, very rural area in West Texas, where there are a lot of Mennonites. And Mennonites, apparently, they're not sort of, depending on the group, not totally against modern medical intervention.
Okay.
But they do tend to sort of shy away from it, right? They don't go in whole hog. They probably don't go for annual checkups and whatnot. Mm-hmm. But if, somebody breaks a foot or whatnot, let's get it taken care of. Mm-hmm. So anyway, so they don't have any kind of specific prohibition against vaccination. But because they don't interact with medical services very much. It's kind of typical for the kids to not get vaccinated for things like measles. And so that is when measles, for those of you who don't know, because I mean, like, measles used to be common. There used to be like 2 to 3 million cases. I'm sorry, 3 to 4 million cases in the United States every year.
No, geez.
Before the vaccine came out in 1963. And typically now we have fewer than 200 cases in a normal year. However, in the last couple of years, we've been seeing these outbreaks because of the prevalence of, vaccine hesitancy, which is mind-boggling still to me.
Yeah.
So Texas law does allow children to be exempt from school vaccines. They do have a requirement that kids entering kindergarten be vaccinated against a number of childhood diseases, illnesses, and whatnot. However, they do have an exemption for conscience and religious beliefs and whatnot. But the percentage of kids with exemptions has risen over the last decade from under 1% in 2014 to 2.3% last year are entering school without these vaccines.
And that's enough for a breakout.
Yeah, that is enough for some kids to definitely get sick. And then this part of Texas, apparently about 14% of children in kindergarten through 12th grade have opted out of at least one of the required vaccines. And health officials think that the number is probably quite a bit higher than that because of the number of kids who are homeschooled,
right, or
sent to like these very private, like private Mennonite focused, type schools, if that's what's happening. They mentioned private schools in the area. I would assume that's what they are. Anyway, it's spreading. New Mexico has had a case now because I guess this part of West Texas is really very close to the border. And there are other counties as well in Texas that are starting to see some cases pop up. It's highly contagious, measles.
What do people die from measles? What's the repercussions of this?
Very small children. It's really risky for very small children and other sort of at-risk type groups. Like it can be fatal.
Okay.
Typically though, you get really sick and you get better.
Is it like chicken pox?
Yeah. Have you seen pictures of people with measles?
No.
So, chicken pox, you get some dots.
Yeah.
Apparently it's just like, you're just fucking covered.
Ugh. And they're like itchy or
I think so.
Painful,
I don't
maybe
actually know much about what the experience of getting measles is. Because there's this vaccine that came out in the 60s.
How nice. How amazing.
And we didn't have these problems
Yeah.
for a very long time. And now there's...
That's why I know nothing about what measles actually looks like.
Right. Because why would
in my
we?
lifetime, it's never been a problem.
Right. Why would that information have ever been handed down to us? Right. And we didn't need to know.
Right.
There would have been no reason to have known. It would have been outside. It's been outside of our experience.
Right.
And unfortunately now, because people are like, but vaccines cause autism or whatever weird idea they have.
Yeah.
There was another article that I chose not to cover this week about a man who's denied a heart transplant because they wanted him vaccinated against COVID.
Sure.
Right. And he's like, no.
So he doesn't want.
It's a new vaccine, and people have heart problems afterward, and blah blah blah. And it's
you
like he's literally
heart problems,
going to die, right? Because he's refusing to comply with
a heart transplant is far riskier, than a vaccination.
Yes, like just do a little cost benefit thing here, dude. Like just weigh
Stubborn
these.
Stanley is what I call that.
And his wife was like, well, initially I was really against his decision. I wanted him just to get the fact, but now I stand by him. It's like, oh,
all right, well,
what?
Thinning of the herd, then fine. Make your choices, man.
I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what is the religious reason why you can't get vaccinated. What's their logic?
in this case, the religious issue isn't an outright prohibition. This is they have a hesitancy to just interact with a lot of modernity.
But 14%
Mennonites aren't Amish.
Them,
they don't live like in complete. Like,
yeah.
They have their sort of selective ways that they enjoy modern.
Yeah.
Technology and conveniences and whatnot. But there are Mennonite communities apparently that are just fine going to the doctor. Right. They don't care. But there is a tendency amongst the broader community to just maybe not engage much. And then there are some that are like, yeah, we don't go to the doctor. Right. And so so you can't just say Mennonites have a prohibition against it. It's just in this community, it's really rural. But they're given a religious exemption for school, right? Well, a lot of these kids don't even go to public school.
Well, that's true.
But yeah, I think in this case, they would probably just say, if their kids were in public school, they would probably and they didn't want to have them vaccinated, they probably would be like, oh, we're Mennonite. And nobody would know. They'd just be like,
I guess you're
I'm going to consult my list of approved. I'm sorry, that is inconsistent with
the religious exemptions.
The teachings of your religion.
Yeah.
They don't do that. I think if people say I have a religious objection, they just take it at their word and go for it. So, but it's really unfortunate. Like it's just sick. Anytime that people just ignore the prevailing medical wisdom and whatnot and science, it's just like, it just pisses me off.
Yeah. And it's like for the greater good. It's like you can't just be part of the community at this point and just make sure we're all healthy and happy.
Yeah.
You have to be selfish on this one.
Because when enough people aren't vaccinated, it opens up other opportunities. Yeah. There's that whole herd immunity thing. Because some people, well, there are legitimate cases. I'm not sure about measles and whatnot, but with some vaccines, there are legitimate cases where people can't have them. They can't take them. Right. Right. But if everybody else around them is vaccinated, they're protected too. Yeah. Right. Or sometimes maybe there's a person their immune system didn't mount a good response to the vaccine. Mm-hmm. I think that's also something that sometimes happens. And then those people are also, once again, protected by the herd. But if you break down the herd protection, then those people are now susceptible. Yeah. And it's sick because we can just get rid of these things if everybody just goes along with it. Yeah. Who can?
Or like this community, if everyone just gets it, then they're all immune now.
Yeah. Miracle. Yeah. Isn't it amazing? Yeah. Right? And I don't know why that narrative can't work for these people of isn't God amazing? He helped direct these people he made the science. He made the science.
The knowledge.
Yeah. This all came from God. Why can't they I would be okay with people having that explanation of the world and science. If they're like, wow, look how marvelous God is. Yeah. He's given us the internet. Yeah. And he's given us, although I like the internet. I hate the internet. But, sure. Not
everything's got its problems, but yeah.
Yeah. But
these people aren't thinking on that level.
Yeah. He gave us modern medicine, right? Yeah. Why can't that be that seems so easy. Yeah. Enjoy the modern tech, but no, these groups have to be different.
Someone's trying to trick us. They have to set
themselves apart. Now, I think a lot of it's we're special, we're unique, we're different. And that's how they set themselves apart is by not engaging with certain things.
Oh, I think the anti-vaxxers in general are very conspiracy minded. Someone's trying to get at us.
There are those. RFK Juniors
Yeah.
of the world.
The non-Mennonite.
The
types of anti-vaxxers.
non-religious vaccine skeptics. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Alrighty.
All right. I got a pretty grim story here.
Oh, okay.
From South Africa.
Okay.
South Africa has one of the highest murder rates in the whole world.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't realize that either until reading this. Murder's a pretty common thing there, but there was a man, Musin Hendricks. He's an openly gay imam.
Oh, wow.
And I guess considered the world's first openly gay imam. He ran a mosque that was a safe haven for gay and other marginalized Muslims, so that they could practice their faith without fear of who they are.
Okay.
Well, he last week was murdered. He was shot in a vehicle. He was in the backseat of a car, and two people got out of another car and shot him. They don't know anything about the people that shot him, but it's being investigated as a hate crime. It seems like it probably is very much a hate crime.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, they don't know for sure the motive, but it seems pretty clear that this guy was,
So we have a gay imam.
Mm-hmm.
Boy.
Which makes you think, oh, wow, South Africa is so great that they would have like a community for gay Muslims to practice. But then also that guy got shot.
Yeah.
So not so great.
Well, I don't want to say it exactly like this, but this is how I'm going to say it. The Islam can kind of breed sort of a violent type of Muslim, right?
Yeah, hate crimes is
because like we've talked about on the show, we've talked about like
honor crimes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like, if your daughter is being a little whore.
Yeah. Slutty slut. Yeah.
By, not wearing a hijab.
Yeah.
There was a story not too long ago of, a young woman in the UK, I think it was, that was lured back to Pakistan, I think. And her father and brother killed her because she
brought shame to them.
She had brought shame to them.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff. The honor killings and the Quran burner guy got killed.
Yeah.
Up in Sweden. And there was a stabbing this week of somebody who burned a Quran, and I can't remember where, but it's just a thing. And it's like, and that's why I find Islam when it's practiced to that extreme, and it seems to be fairly common around the world that it is, to be terrifying. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Like it's like, and it's too bad because there's plenty of perfectly good Muslims in the world. Right.
Absolutely.
But they belong to a religion that can be interpreted in ways that are terrifying.
And often is interpreted in really violent ways. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think Islam is, not that I'm going to rank religions because I hate them all, but I really fucking hate Islam for this reason, that it is allowed in their religion to take it to this interpretation and of that killing people is fine. Yeah. And you don't hear enough from moderate Muslims denouncing it. Right? I agree.
And it's just like, so, eesh.
I know.
Poor guy.
Icky. I know.
I mean, you never want to blame the victim, but he was doing something that was very risky.
Yeah. And he
was standing up to it, and he was being very brave. Yeah.
He had previous death threats. He was in a documentary a few years ago, and he said that the quote is that he felt the need to be authentic as greater than his fear of dying. Wow. So kind of like he
knew what he was doing.
Yeah.
He knew the risks.
Yep.
That's awful, because I mean, like, as much as we denounce religion on the show and everything. Like whenever I hear about people trying to carve out spaces for members of the LGBTQIA community.
Yeah.
Even when it's within a religious community, I'm always rooting for them because I know what it was like growing up gay.
Yeah.
Right. In a non-accepting environment.
Yeah.
And I just want people to be able to find some peace, even if they're never going to leave their religion.
Right.
Right. And, that sucks. That really sucks. Well, hopefully somebody steps in.
Yeah.
Because like people also need to see, like the people who would commit these kind of atrocities also need to see that
there's resilience among people who are marginalized and need a space.
Yeah,
to
exactly.
be together.
Yeah. All right. Well, this was an interesting thing that came out this week, caught my attention, having to do with some research from the Pew Research Center. They looking specifically at levels of religious nationalism around the world. So like Christian nationalism is a big issue right now in the United States. And they wanted to look at other countries and see, like India with its Hindu nationalism, right? And which we've talked a lot about on the show. But there's also, if you look at Israel, there's, Jewish nationalism,
sure.
Right? And so they sort of had to establish their definition of sort of what constitutes religious nationalism, because apparently it's not sort of, there's no universally agreed upon definition of exactly what it is. And so they came up with sort of a way to measure across the world in a consistent way, what share of people in different countries sort of view the dominant religious tradition as central to their national identity, want their leaders to share their religious belief, and want religious teachings to guide their laws.
Yeah.
That's sort of their definition of
pretty
like
clear cut.
Yeah. And I think that's a pretty good definition. And so they then used that to craft 4 questions that would then sort of be tailored to each nation that they were doing the polling in. So it's how important is belonging to the historically predominant religion to being truly part of your national identity. So how important is being a Muslim to being truly Indonesian? They use as an example. Or how important is being a Christian to being truly American? The next question, how important is it for you, for your national leaders to share your religious beliefs? And then how much influence do you think the historically predominant religion's sacred text should have on the laws of your country? How much influence should the Quran have on the laws of Turkey, or the Bible on the laws of Italy, right? And then depending on how they answered that question, there's a follow-up, which is when the sacred text conflicts with the will of the people, which should have more influence on the laws of your country? Okay. And so they were able to then rate these different countries and the level of religious nationalism in the country. Okay.
And they're just asking like a random sampling of people.
Correct. Yeah. Okay. And so globally it ended up being over like 50,000 people were surveyed in, I think they said 36 countries.
Wow. Okay.
And the surprising thing, I think for a lot of people, is sort of how small of a portion of our country actually was identifiable as in this a Christian nationalist.
Okay, what percent?
6%.
Oh, wow. I'm surprised by that.
Right?
Yeah.
Especially when you hear numbers from some other countries. So other Christian countries, in Kenya, 32% of people are Christian nationalists.
Okay.
In the Philippines, it's 21%. In Ghana, it's 17%. You get down, I'll skim down the list. Brazil, it's 13%. Greece is 9%. Mexico is 8%. Italy is 4%. Canada is 3%. And then we get to like Germany and Sweden are both under 1%. I think that's nice. Germany and Sweden.
Always at the top of
cool.
any list of cool things, aren't you?
I'm so happy for you.
Yeah.
Netherlands 1%, France 1%, UK 1%. I mean, not Australia 2%. Not super surprising that those countries would be really low. Buddhist nationalists, I guess that's a thing. Thailand 9%, Sri Lanka 7%. And then Hindu nationalism in India is like at 24%. Jewish nationalism in Israel is at 9%. And not surprising, Muslim countries, Indonesia, it's 46%, Bangladesh, 45%.
Yeah.
Turkey is only 11%. So that's high, but not as high.
Yeah. Yeah.
Some places.
Yeah.
Anyway, I thought that this was really, really interesting because I don't know if there's maybe a flaw and Pew didn't find all the Christian nationalists in this country, but they're a pretty reputable, organization, or that 6% of our country is just so fucking loud and disproportionately represented in our government. Like, how does it feel so loud if it's only 6%? Or would they say the same thing about gay people, which is about the same number, but that we're
yeah.
They just hear so much about gay people.
Everyone's transgender. Everyone's playing trans sports now.
Right. Like, is it somehow just being like amplified by the way the media and social media filter all this
information? So which of those questions, which of those questions would people, do you think, be? Because I feel like the last one may be where people would say, okay, no, I don't think.
Yeah. And apparently you do have to hit all 4 of them in order to be included in that percentage. Because
the top 3 questions are still pretty bad for society, for me. Like, right. I don't think that if you answered the top the first 3 questions, yes, and the last one, no, I think you're still kind of fucking with society too much.
So listen how it plays in the United States. They'd have to hit all 4 of these things. Being a Christian is very important to being truly American.
Yeah.
And it is very important that the U.S. president shares their religious beliefs. Mm-hmm. And the Bible should have at least some influence over U.S. laws. Mm-hmm. And when the Bible conflicts with the will of the people, the Bible should have more influence. And you're right. Like, those first 3 are probably fairly common. I'd almost like to hear those numbers.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Because that's maybe what we're hearing as like this loud.
Are those people?
Yeah. That maybe they got the 4th question. They answered no on the last one.
Maybe. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know. I agree with you. I wish it was broken down a little bit more, that there was some indication of what those top 3 questions, how they were answered. Mm-hmm. Because those are problematic.
If you say yes to those 3,
I
got a problem with that.
Because but if you did answer those top 3, it's not a far stretch to go to that 4th one. So it's to say that the Bible should have more influence, right? At a certain point. And the Bible should at least have some influence. Oh, no, because you could be really, really, really Christian and really, really want the U.S. president to be Christian.
Yeah, I think that's a normal. I want everyone to reflect me and my values.
You can even be even think that being Christian is very important to being truly American. Boy, that's a rough statement.
I know.
I hate that statement.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's not just like, oh yeah, I'm super Christian. That's like, no, everybody should be
all Americans.
If you want to be a real American, you have to be Christian.
Yeah.
Blech.
Yeah.
But anyway, so maybe it is a little bit
Overstated.
or understated.
Or I guess rather.
Yeah.
Well, maybe it's understated, but maybe what we're hearing is from the news is maybe it's not that many people.
But there's clearly risk.
Yeah, totally.
Because they have positioned themselves very well.
Yeah, they're doing a real good job.
And they got the guy they want who doesn't care about anything except himself. Mm-hmm. And they seem to be getting what he's fine giving them what they want right now because it's bolstering his power.
Yeah.
But I think though those numbers should give us some hope. That the overreach that's currently happening is going to have a strong reaction.
The pendulum swing back. Yeah.
Because when you're, when it's India and you're talking about Hindu nationalism and it's like, what was the number? It was pretty high. Yeah, 24%. You can start to see why, and how Modi is able to really use that effectively.
Yeah.
And and turn it into something that's really hard to push back. Because like we were saying, people who are sympathetic to or who aren't going to care that much because they're, in the case of India, they're also Hindu.
Right.
So it's okay, whatever, no big deal, right? When you compare that to the United States, it's I just have hope. I have to hold on to hope.
Yeah.
That there's going to be a backlash, and while we're in for a number of kind of rough years, eventually we're going to mount a response to however far he's able to get.
I hope so.
With what he's doing right now.
Yeah, I hope so.
I have to hold on to that hope.
Yeah.
Because at 6%, the non-believers way super outnumber these people.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Right?
Yeah.
Like by a lot.
Yeah.
At least, and especially the religiously unaffiliated.
Yeah, what's that percent? Like 20%?
Yeah, like it's in the mid-20s now, right? Of religiously unaffiliated.
How come we're not louder?
I don't know. We lack the organization, like an organization.
Right. Because we're atheists.
Right. We're it's a little bit
anti-organized.
of a decentralized. See, that could be our power as well. Our decentralization.
Right. We're like a web of underground spies.
Independent cells. We have our atheist cells.
Yes.
But clearly,
you're going to get arrested.
I know. That was a bad statement. Yeah. But cells have to somehow. There's still something centralized. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And that's just what we're lacking.
Yeah. We don't have a leader.
We don't have anything.
We definitely don't have a charismatic leader.
No.
That we can rally behind.
No, it's sort of
I nominate Dan Beecher.
He's charismatic. He is charismatic.
He can do it.
I don't think
he has to stop traveling so much.
I don't know. He's out there making contacts. Yeah. Establishing new cells. We could get him
like a private jet.
Oh, we have to make a lot more money off this show.
There's a lot of us. Well, we're not. The show is not paying for it. The atheists of America that he's organized will pay for it.
We might be able to buy him a ticket on
a first
Frontier.
Class. Oh.
No. He can get a cookie.
He can board first.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, are we moving on?
All right.
Actually, we're not moving. It's still a Trump. I have a Trump story.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
No, it's like unavoidable. So we know that Trump did the Gulf of Mexico is now the Gulf of America. Yeah. Far too many people are buying into this.
I know. Including Google Maps.
Including Google Maps.
Have you seen it? Have you looked? Have you seen it?
I did, because there was this thing that went around last week that if you Googled it, you can report errors on Google Maps. Like, yeah, this street name is wrong, or this street is closed, or
right.
And so they walked you through the steps of how to say, like, you've misnamed this gulf.
The Gulf.
It's actually called the Gulf of Mexico.
Okay,
So,
I
like,
love that.
yeah,
Okay.
fucking, the internet's great for some things, right? Social media is good for some things.
For some things.
Yeah. Okay, so there's a bunch of Christians who have organized an effort well enough that our Congress has a resolution right now to rename the West Bank in Israel,
Okay.
Judea and Samaria. So this isn't just like a small group of people who want to do it. They've got the ear of Congress people, men and women.
Right.
Tom Cotton of Arkansas, to be one of them.
Yeah.
So they introduced a bill in this past December. They want the West Bank to be Judea and Samaria. They want the biblically recognized territory to be what we are officially referring to it as. This is something Trump would do overnight too. He would just go, "Oh, okay, yeah, that's what we're going to call it now." So this is not out of the realm of possibility. Some scholars that know, the area, that region of the world, are like, this is geographically wrong. That's actually not Judea and Samaria.
Oh no.
So there's parts of there are biblical places in the West Bank, such as Jerusalem and Jericho, but no, Judea and Samaria are actually far larger. That's a larger territory than what the West Bank is.
Okay.
So this is not accurate to call it that. But the biblical people won't care.
They don't care about accuracy.
They are concerned about the biblical colonialism of their places.
Interesting.
Yeah. So.
Well, yeah. I mean. And
Israel, it turns out, has had
just like this. Yeah, it's gross because it just ignores the Palestinians. Another way to ignore their existence.
Right.
Right.
They've lived there for a long, long time and have different names for these places. And the Israeli government has for a long time just been like, no, we don't call it that anymore. It's now called our Hebrew word for it.
Oh, really?
And so, so they are kind of like,
so this is already colonialism.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, of just erasing the indigenous people's land. Obviously their claim on the land, and then but they're like just taking away their words for it. Like colonialists have been doing this for ages, and that's what we're essentially doing there.
Yeah, and
that's what these congressmen and women are encouraging, is more of that
erasure.
Yep.
Of
people who have lived there,
in history, and and Trump's offering to build them
a resort, Mar-a-Lago of the Middle East.
Well, no, that's what he wants to replace them with.
For Gaza,
for Gaza. Like, I'm sure that he would extend the offer to the West Bank.
Some casinos up there.
Make it nice.
Yeah.
I mean,
it'll be like Sedona.
We'll put you up in some nice
high rises.
Apartment buildings over here. And
over by the
maybe Jordan some of you can go to Jordan, some of you can go to Egypt, and these other countries.
We'll just send you to other countries. They have no problem with that.
But those countries are also like,
excuse us?
Yeah, you didn't ask.
Hello.
Had you, we would have said no.
Yeah.
So.
Well, at least the overwhelming response from the Middle Eastern world with regards to turning Gaza into a resort is like, no. We're going to pump the brakes on that.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know.
Gorgeous beachfront land.
Yeah. Anyway, it clearly was not a very well thought out idea. Like, Did you
No.
see the picture of like his chief of staff's face when he was
Yeah.
actually saying it?
Excuse me, what? Did we talk about this?
It was just like, brr, brr, what's going on?
Yeah.
Anyway. All right. Well, if you have anything that you would like to add to anything that we've talked about so far on the show, please send us an email at podcast@thankgodimatheist.com, or you can leave us a voicemail at 424-666-8442. Stick around. There's more show coming up. All right. Well, this is the point on the show where we would normally do correspondence and thank new patrons. But in the absence of Dan, I always just skip that because I feel like, especially the thanking the patrons part, I like to have both of us here for that.
Yeah.
So if you're a new patron and you haven't been thanked yet, we will get to it when Dan's back on the show. So yeah, so let's just skip ahead and get to what we sort of teased at the beginning of the show, which is this revision that the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints has done to their sort of illustrated children's book teaching materials about their historic practice of polygamy, which the church did end in 1890. So when you see Mormon, like these modern shows, like what's the one? The one here in Utah.
Cody and his wives.
Bleh.
Yeah, I can't remember what it's called.
It's
Sister
just called Sister Wives.
Yeah.
That's right. When you see stuff like that, that's not officially sort of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, the Mormons. There were a lot of splinter groups and independent Mormon groups that continue to practice polygamy, which is problematic. That's not good. But but the church, the mainline church, has had since abandoning the practice, they've always had a hard time really addressing it. They've never really fully, they've never apologized for the practice, and they've never like really stripped the idea of polygamy out of their concept of the afterlife.
Right.
It's still sort of a functioning part of the Mormon theology. So a few months ago when they published some illustrated or this new illustrated materials for kids, teaching them about polygamy, there was a lot of people looked at it as, oh, wow, this is kind of progress, right? For one, Joseph Smith, they're actually acknowledging that like the problems that Emma had.
She hated it.
They don't go that far.
Right.
They did not go that far. But they talked about how it was a challenge, and that this is maybe there was reluctance, but ultimately there was obedience amongst the Mormons, which isn't really all that true. There were people who immediately like left the church over polygamy. Their neighboring communities and the places where they lived were rightfully responding very negatively.
Kicked them out of town.
Yeah, they were trying to run them out of town, and they succeeded. But the church was presenting it as though outsiders made laws against it, saying that, Latter-day Saint leaders were imprisoned because of their prophets' instructions and this, that, and the other. So there were also people amongst the Mormon, still within like active Mormons, who were having problems with that it wasn't a full acknowledgement, that there's still sort of this whitewashing and still like trying to present them as like these innocent, persecuted people when they were actually in the middle of like abhorrent practices.
A child sex ring, essentially.
A child sex ring. Like this is pretty common in cults where the leader will like use sex as a control mechanism. And so Joseph Smith was like taking other men's wives from them and claiming them as his own wives. And the men just had to go along with it if they wanted to stay in the church. And so it was meant to control. It was an abuse of his power in his community. And
there were children involved.
And there was a 14-year-old.
I don't think they acknowledged that there was a 14-year-old woman that Joseph Smith, young woman.
Yeah, girl.
A
girl. Yeah.
Like that, the church needs to be clear about that.
Yeah. And so there were plenty of people who were bothered by them maybe talking about it too much. And there were a lot of people who were pissed off because they weren't talking about it enough.
Yeah.
Or in the correct way.
Yeah.
Again, with this sort of whitewashing. Well, anyway, the church, they listened.
They accepted the positive feedback.
Yeah, so much so that they basically just took out all the parts that people were having problems with and are moving on. They gave the page a new subheading: plural marriage, a commandment for a time.
For a time.
It says, so the final cartoon notes the end of polygamy in 1890, when, quote, the Lord told Wilford Woodruff, the president of the church, that men should not marry more than one wife anymore. And it includes with the line, this is still the Lord's commandment today. A man should be married to only one wife. Plural marriage, a commandment for a time. Okay. So God is not consistent.
No.
He's not constant.
No.
He changes his mind. He changes his rules. He's a crazy social experimenter.
Yeah.
Right? Like this is their God.
Yeah.
This is what they're setting up.
Yeah.
Because they won't do the simple thing, a hard thing, but the simple thing of just saying this was wrong.
Yeah.
These men were misguided.
Yeah.
They made decisions that were not in line with God's teachings.
Yeah.
Right. They still established our movement. Right. They could say that Joseph Smith still translated the Book of Mormon and brought
before he
went astray.
Yeah.
You know. But they're not doing that. And so once again, they're just whitewashing.
You know why though?
And painting over their past.
The whole religion crumbles when you start to question it. And if you give someone one reason to say, well, that wasn't true.
Yeah.
Their brain goes down a rabbit hole. Like this happened to you, happened to me, happens to all of our friends.
Sure.
We know how people leave this religion, and it starts with one thing that you question and go, I don't think that's true. And so the Mormon Church is probably well aware that all it takes is you to doubt one aspect of it.
But I think more people go down that road when they discover it on their own.
Yeah.
If the church went through some sort of, I don't know if it would officially be like a reconciliation process, but in a way it would be, right? Where they honestly sat down and had honest conversations about their past and about this very problematic part of their history. And were just truthful and honest and seeking, in an effort to sort of seek a new step forward, right?
Yeah.
Of like this, we're acknowledging who we were. That's not who we are now.
Yeah.
They could be clear about that. This is not who we are. That's the past, but we need to face it. right? We need to acknowledge it. We need to be real about it. And let's move forward together. I think they would lose fewer people on a whole if they did that, right? They honestly should listen to me for advice on how to run their church. I have very good ideas about how to run their church.
Well, maybe we should make you the charismatic leader of the atheists.
But they don't, and they're never going to admit to any kind of error in judgment, right? Or acknowledge the pain that this doctrine has caused to generations of women in their church. Yeah, right. They're never going to acknowledge it. Yeah. And at least I don't think we'll ever see it. Yeah. Right. And that's the thing. It legitimately, even though they don't practice polygamy, it still causes pain to modern women. My mom, the comments that she has made through the years about polygamy.
Like what?
Why? Because it is still part of the doctrine. It is still, there is still polygamy in eternity. Right. She's like, I just don't know if I can share your father.
So she does believe in that when she dies, they're all going to be in heaven and he's going to get more wives.
She knows it's part of the doctrine and she's not cool with it. Yeah. But she doesn't really confront it or think too much about it. But when it comes up, she doesn't like it. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And so but if they were honest and acknowledged that this was bad and it's not a part of modern Mormonism and it's not part of the future, that would be gone for her. Yeah. Right. Yeah. My parents are pretty psycho Mormon. Yeah. Right. Right. Like, and I think they would be grateful that the church clarified something.
There's no reason for the church to hold on to this anyway.
There's a way out. Yeah.
Yeah. No one's happier with the idea of, well, I guess, no, I shouldn't say no one's happier with the idea of multiple wives in heaven.
There's some men that.
But no one would also leave the religion because of it. No. You know?
Yeah, it's really weird. It's a weird, but they are in a bind because a lot of their doctrine does unravel if you start to pick away and pull polygamy out, right? And a lot of their history becomes not the pleasant, whitewashed version that they present. It becomes a difficult history, but one that they could still own. It could still be theirs. They could, I don't know, but it's a mess as it is. And you know what? Don't fix it. Keep causing all this, cognitive dissonance amongst your membership. Keep leaving these things that they get to discover and then have problems with and have them leave. Right. I'm fine with them not fixing
Keep having 80, 90-year-old people, 100-year-old people make decisions for your organization.
Sure. Yeah.
Don't modernize yourself in any way. Right. And yeah. And see how that goes.
I'm fine with that for sort of out of the idea of like, well, Mormonism creates really, really cool atheists. Yeah. Right. Yeah. As it is. Like Mormons tend not to go find other churches when they leave Mormonism. They really don't. They're like done with religion. Right. That's from my perspective. Right. Like I've seen it so much. Yeah. Where people are just like, oh God, fuck no. Why would I go be Baptist after that?
I know.
Right? Why would I go be Catholic
the rock and
after
roll
that?
church. There's some of those rock and roll churches here, though.
Yeah. One of your brothers.
Yeah. One of my brothers does rock band church.
Yeah.
And they're everywhere, though.
Yeah. No, they are. You do see them.
So it's like the ex-Mormons that still want religion, but they have to have a cool, not crazy version of it.
Is it cool?
I think they think it's cool.
I don't think it's very cool.
No.
I think it's... Dan and I went to a rock band church that's just right over... Well, it used to be right over here. I don't think it's there anymore. And years ago we went, and it was just cringy.
Oh yeah.
It was so just like, oh God.
Yeah.
But yeah, they were wearing cool clothes.
Yeah, you can wear jeans and such.
And the preacher, he was a cool guy.
Yeah,
right?
He wasn't 90 years old.
Yeah, no, he wasn't. He was decidedly not. But he was also pretty Jesus-y.
Yeah.
But merging those two things, cool guy with Jesus.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, alrighty. Well, there you have it, guys. The Mormon Church still can't get it right. So go check it out. The drawings are.
I do remember that type of animation. Like I think they had little videos.
Yeah,
stuff
that looked like that.
Yeah, I remember those.
Yeah,
from childhood.
So check it out. You can find the article on the Salt Lake Tribune's website if you're curious. And if you'd like to send us any feedback, we'd love to hear from you. Well, before I get to that though, thank you, Rachel.
You're welcome
for being on the show.
Well, thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's always fun. But if you would like to let us know how we did today, agree, disagree with anything, we'd love to hear from you. Podcast@thankgodimatheist.com is the email address. The telephone number is 424-666-8442. You can also go to Patreon. Well, actually, go to our website first, thankgodimatheist.com/donate. Then from there, there's links to go to Patreon or PayPal. Or also, you can always leave us 5-star review.
Yeah, hello.
On whatever platform you listen to us on. It is awesome when you do. We've had a few come in lately, so thank you very much for those of you who've left really nice reviews of the show. And also we can use the support, and we really appreciate that as well. This episode was edited by Roger Gowdy, and music was provided by the Red Rock Hot Club and Gordon Johnston. And I think that's about it.
All right.
Dan will be back next week, and thank you all so much for listening. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank God I'm Atheist is a production of TGIA Media, LLC, copyright 2025, all rights reserved.